Today, we're diving into the world of shader creation as we explore how to make a realistic water shader with foam in Unity. Whether you're working on an ocean scene or an action-packed adventure game, this tutorial will equip you with the knowledge and techniques to bring your water effects to life. Get ready to make waves and add that extra touch of realism to your project. I have already made 2 videos about water shader and a water shader with foam, but many of you guys were having trouble combining both of the tutorials. In one video, I made this realistic water shader from a Unity video. In the next, I made a cartoonish water shader with foam. A lot of you guys were trying to add the foam part in the realistic water but couldn't. So, in this video, we're gonna learn how we can add the foam part to any water shader that you might have. Exciting, isn't it? If you watched both of the videos, I suggest you watch this video anyway because I guarantee you will learn something new in this video. For this tutorial, I assume that you already watched both of the videos or at least this video, or you already have a water shader. Great! First of all, let's open the shader. In order to make the foam, first we need a shape for our foam. So for that, let's take a gradient noise. Right now this noise is static. We need to make it moving. So how can we do that? If you remember, we have already done this in our previous water shader video right here. This is why I suggest you watch that video before watching this video, because in that way you will learn a lot. We're gonna do what we did here. We're gonna create a time node. From the time node, we are gonna get the time and hook it up to a multiply node because we want to control the speed of our foam. Let's create a float property called foam speed and give it a default value of 1 for now. Let's take the foam speed property and hook it up to the B input of our multiply node. Now we have a way to control the speed of our foam. Let's take the output of our multiply node and hook it up to the offset input of a tiling and offset node. Now take the output of the tiling and offset node and hook it up to the UV input of the gradient noise node. Now we have a moving gradient and we can easily control the speed of the noise. We have a scale input in our gradient noise to control the size of the noise. We can create a float property called foam size and hook it up to the scale input to easily control the size of our foam. Let's give the foam size a default value of 30 for now. Remember, these are custom properties, so we can change them anytime in the inspector. Now comes the interesting part, which is the depth fade. In my previous water shader with foam video, I was using a sub shader called depth fade, and it made a lot of people confused because they can find the depth fade, and it made me confused because I didn't import or create any sub shader for the video. I don't know how there was a depth fade sub shader already in my project. While making this video, I found out that there were no depth fade node by default, and I realized my mistake. So in a future video, I'll show you guys how you can make a depth fade sub shader. It's pretty simple, but in this video I'm not gonna use the depth fade. Instead, I'll show you another way of achieving the same result. We already have this in my water shader video in this part. This is exactly what we are gonna do now. For that, let's take a scene depth node and a camera node. We're gonna multiply the output of our scene depth node and the depth buffer of our camera, which is the far plane. Now we are gonna take a screen position node. Currently the mode is set to default, but we're gonna change that to raw. This mode is useful for projection, and that's what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna take the output of our screen position and hook it up to a split node because we only want the alpha or the A output. Now we're gonna take the A output and hook it up to an add node because we want to control the amount of our foam. So we are gonna create a float property called foam amount and hook it up to the B input of our add node. Now we are gonna subtract the added value from our multiplied value. We want to control the cutoff of our foam. So we're gonna take our output and hook it up to a multiply node. We can create a float property called foam cutoff and hook it up to the B input of our multiply node. Now we have essentially created a depth fade for our shader. Now we need to link both of these. I just want to quickly say here, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more shader or Unity tutorials in general. For that, let's take the output from here and create a step node. Take the output of our gradient noise and hook it up to the in input of our step node. Pay close attention here because the output of our multiply needs to be in the edge input and the gradient noise needs to be in the in input. Step node returns 1 if the value of input in is greater than or equal to the value of input edge. Up to this point, we have created the foam, but it has no color. We need to add color to our foam. For that, take the output of the step node and hook it up to the T input of a LERP node. What LERP node does is returns the result of linearly interpolating between input A and input B by input T. The value of input T is clamped to the range of 0 to 1. So what that means is if the value of T is 0, then the value is going to equal to input A, and if the value is 1, the return value or the output of this is going to be closer to input B. Now let's create a color property called foam color and change the mode to HDR. HDR lets us control the intensity of the color. You can use the default mode, but I thought why not use HDR and make things interesting. Now select the color to white and make sure A channel or the alpha channel is set to max, which is 255, because by default it's set to 0. You need to change it, otherwise you're not going to have any color. Let's also change the intensity to 2, because why not? Intensity will add a subtle glow to your color. Now we can take the foam color and hook it up to the B input of our LERP node. We still have a A input left in our LERP node. For that, let's go up here. As you can see, we already have an input in our base color. So we are going to delete that and hook the output of our color LERP node to the A input of our foam LERP node. Now we can take the output of this and hook it up to the base color. If we save the shader and go back to Unity, as you can see, we have foam in our water. You can play with these properties here to make the foam look like how you want it to be. As you can see, the foam looks great. If you don't want to create the shader yourself, I will put a link in the description where you can download the full project. That's it guys, that's the end of this video. Now you know how you can add foam to any water shader that you might have. Right now, if you want to learn how I created this water shader, make sure you go and watch this video.